So today we're creating a web page using Figma Make. We're going to go over all the ins and outs of using AI to create a fully functional web page using your designs. Today I'm going to show you how to take your designs from Figma and bring them into Figma Make to create a fully functional website. So I recently did this when I created a web page for my YouTube channel videos. I asked Figma Make to create for me this web page that would highlight my videos, and it created these really great cards that have rollovers, and I gave it my API key from Google so that it would automatically pull in all my latest videos. So I started in Figma Design, and I wanted to get a kind of boost on my design. So I created a first draft. This is a design tool that Figma has that uses the AI to create a structure for you. I recommend, once it does create it for you, that you keep the name of the frame that it created, because it can be helpful later if you're trying to come up with a new design or something different and use a different prompt. One thing to note is that there are no style sheets in here. So every single piece of copy or color is separated. Now, one of the cool things you can do in Figma Make is you can use a library. So what you want to do with your library is go to your assets panel, click on your library, hit publish, and down here at the bottom it says export to Figma Make. So that way you can make sure that all your styles are connected. While you should do as much design work in Figma Design as you can before you go over to Figma Make, because you won't be able to bring your design back from Figma Make. I would also recommend that Figma Make can make some items that maybe are just time consuming for you to make. For instance, these icons. I haven't made these, and I'm going to ask it to make me those. The other thing is, when using First Draft, it created a desktop site for me, but didn't make a mobile version. And I found when I asked it to make a mobile version based on this design, it just came up with something that was completely different. So I skipped over to Figma Make because it will actually make me a mobile website. So are we ready to move into Figma Make? I think so. So with your frame selected, hit copy, Command C, and when you start up a new Figma Make project, you're going to want to go to New File, Make, and you can paste your Figma frame in here. So just hit paste, and it brings in your frame, and you can describe what you're looking for it to do. So if it's making a responsive website or an app, one of the things I can tell you is you need to make sure to think ahead of time about all the things that you're going to want to ask it to do, and try and front load as many of those requests into one giant prompt, because it's making code, and every time you ask it to change something, it has to change all the code. So that can take a little bit of time. So I recommend really thinking about all the things you want it to change. You can see here you can also attach designs. You can select a library, which is great because if you want to stay on brand, you can select a library and ask it to use that library for styles and keep things consistent with your brand. And this right here is a point and edit, and I'll show you how to use that in a minute. So I've already started a Figma Make project with a frame from Figma Design. So I asked it to make a responsive web page for a technology company. I also asked it to make appropriate icons into the feature section, since it came up with some plug and play information, and it did a really good job of coming up with some icons that matched what the content is. In the main navigation, I wanted it to link to specific areas in the design, and I asked it to create some functionalities. So one of the things to understand is, generally in Figma Make, you're not using it as a design tool so much as a functionality tool. So bringing your designs into Figma Make, they should be completely designed, and then you want to use Figma Make to bring it to life. I have found that in some situations, if your design is not fully baked in, it can be helpful skipping to Figma Make, just so you can come up with something and have it fully functional and working so it's ready to go. So it's pretty exciting once you do get your site working inside of Figma site. Right away you'll notice some things are already working, like there's rollovers already for your buttons and your text where it makes sense. So for instance, on this pricing section, there's rollovers and it increases the size of each card as you roll over them. So for this compare plans section, if you wanted to, you could import actual data instead of the dummy data that's here by importing a CSV file. And when you import that, you want to explain how the AI should use that data and which columns to place the data into. So understand that when you import your Figma frame, it's trying to interpret what you want. And sometimes that can be problematic. So if you have any functionality or sections that aren't being imported correctly, you might ask for it to make changes and be specific about what you're looking for. So one of the ways in which you can also make changes is using this point and edit function. If you click on this, you can click on any item, and depending on the item you're clicking on, you have different options. So for this, let's say I wanted to make the headline bigger or smaller or a different size or a different font. Remember how our designs weren't made in a mobile-friendly format in Figma Design using the AI? Well, in Figma Make, it actually makes a mobile version for you. Remember, I asked it to make me a responsive web page. So you might need to make a few adjustments while you're in here just to make sure that it's actually rendering correctly. And you can say this section isn't rendering right, or I want these cards to be vertical and not horizontal. Make sure that you're very specific about the changes that you want to see. So one of the other things I thought of that I didn't include in my design in Figma Design is I wanted to have a purchase flow. So I asked it to create a purchase flow for me, and I was very specific about the layout I wanted. And I also asked it to link to the purchase flow from this Try It Free. So originally, this left side had an image that really didn't have anything to do with our product. And so I asked it to replace that image with an image of an app in an iPhone. Now, you could replace this with whatever you'd like, but I really enjoyed the way that it created this image on the left side. The other thing that's cool is I did not ask it to put specific fields in this form, but it did it for me, understanding that a sign-up process or a purchase flow would have these fields in it. And I didn't ask it to say start free trial, but that makes sense to me too. It also added a drop down for choosing your plan that you wanted to use. And it came up with these really cool style of these this green outline on the form fields, which I also like. I really like how the dummy copy seems quite real. So let's say that you really like this web page that Figma Make created for you, and you want to share it with some people. So the next thing you're going to do is create a full screen view. And let's say you want to share this. So you can put in view types, owner, and edits. You can share it with your team. You can copy a link to a full screen view. There's lots of ways to share. And you can make sure that other people can't mess around with it or republish it. So lastly, if you are ready to publish, you hit publish and it will come up with a dummy URL for you. After you hit publish, you'll notice that there's a button here to connect a domain. So if you connect a domain, you type in your domain here, and then it will have you put in all the details for your domain. So the other way you can get your page is by downloading the code. So if you go up to this code button, on the far right, it says download code. So you'll notice before you download the code, you'll notice that there's no index.html. And this is because all the code needs to be compiled to create folders and files that are ready for you to upload to your server. So the way to get this is by asking via prompt to create a downloadable file for you, and it'll create a zip file that you can download. Now, I've run into some problems on my YouTube channel website page that I had it create, and I had to have it recompile it several times. Okay, that's it. I hope you really enjoyed this video on Figma Make.